What up, world? Established Rich coming right back at you. Tonight, we gotta talk about a story that don't just live in hip-hop, don't just live in the streets, and don't just live in prison cells. This is a story that lives in the heart of anybody who has ever had to fight their way through life and come out with a little bit of soul still left. And that story belongs to maxb, a man whose name still carries weight, still carries music, still carries a wave that never died, even when they locked him up and threw away the key. But what hit me about this new interview with Cam and Mase wasn't the laughs and the chuckles. What hit me was the truth behind his voice, the truth that only comes from somebody who survived something they shouldn't have. Because maxb ain't just a rapper who went to jail. maxb is a man who lost 16 years of his life and still walked out with a voice that could fill a room.
Right, Max, where you like, yo, it's a possibility you could come home from off of 75. You like, word? What's that energy like when that's a possibility?
You gotta stay grounded. You can't get too excited.
You don't want to get excited, right?
You don't want to get excited.
Right.
You don't want to start telling everybody. You know, I'm a Gemini. I brag like a motherfucker. Yo, I'm out.
Yeah.
So when I had got the brief or whatever, usually them shits when they get denied, they be like affirmed. You know what I'm saying? You see affirmed. Mm-hmm. So my shit said modified. I'm like, modified? What the fuck is this? Sent the shit to my man. So I'm like, yo, Sue, what that mean? He like, nigga, you got a hearing. You looking like good money. You on your way out. So that's the first time.
Right.
And we in the hole, his niggas behind the gate. Niggas like, oh, this nigga. So they start screaming and shit, some real movie shit, you heard?
Yeah.
Penitentiary blues.
Right.
And you could see it from the moment he sat down with Mase and Cam. You could feel that history, that humility, that new kind of strength you only get from being all the way down on the floor and building yourself back up with your own hands. The man wasn't trying to impress anybody. He was trying to breathe again. And the way he talked about his first month inside, listen, that hit me in a way most interviews don't hit me no more. He said he hit rock bottom less than 30 days into his sentence. Not because he was scared, not because he was soft, but because reality hit harder than any bar ever could. He said he didn't want to talk about music, he didn't want to talk about rap. He said the same people who couldn't wait to be around him on the outside started running up on him on the inside like he owed them a show. And he wasn't on that. He said, I'm on straight Rambo time. And if you from the culture, you know exactly what that means. It means head down, back against the wall, trusted nobody, feeling everything. It means the world stopped seeing you as an artist and started seeing you as a number. And you got to figure out who you are all over again. And what saved him wasn't fame, wasn't money, and it wasn't people saying his name in their songs. What saved him was music itself, the spirit of it, the pieces of it built inside his head just to stay sane. He said he saw men break over 2 months. He said he saw men lose their minds right in front of him. He said he saw people give up before they even started serving their time. But him, he held on to melody like it was a rope pulling him out of darkness. He held on to his voice like that was the only part of him they couldn't lock up. That's the part of the story folks don't understand. maxb didn't just do time. Time did him, and he had to fight it every day. But before we go further, let me keep it real with y'all. There are still people who do not want to celebrate maxb's return. They say his name is attached to a situation where somebody lost their life. They say a family friend never got their brother back, their son back, or their father back. And they right to feel that way because loss don't just disappear because a man did his time. But we also got to acknowledge a truth that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. A man can be responsible for something terrible and still grow. A man can leave prison different than when he entered it. And when maxb walked out this year, he wasn't the same man who walked in. You could hear it in his voice, his energy, his presence. He found peace somewhere in that pain. When Camron and Mase introduced him, it wasn't a celebration of a criminal case. It was a celebration of a survivor, a friend, a man who paid his debt and came home with his humanity intact. You could feel the love between them. You could feel the history in every story and every laugh. And when Max started talking about the waves drama between Kanye and Wiz, you could see a piece of his old self come back to life. The funny part was him saying he saw the argument play out on Wendy Williams while he was locked in the box. That's when it hit me again. Even behind bars, his name still carried weight. That's not normal. That's legendary. And the more Max talked, the more you could tell he wasn't just sharing memories. He was letting years of silence out of his system. He was letting out the pressure that builds up when you spend over a decade in a place where your voice don't mean nothing to nobody but you. There was a part of him that still remembered the sound of them cell bars closing at night. And when he talked about that first month in prison, you could feel that pain. Not the surface pain people like to talk about online, but that deep, cold, I don't know how I'm gonna make it through this type of pain. He said he just wanted to be treated like a normal person. And if you ever been around this culture, you know how powerful that sentence really is. Because there's nothing normal about being locked up while the world keeps moving. Nothing normal about serving time while people outside still say your name in rooms you ain't been in years. And the way Max said it, you could hear the pain in his voice. Like he realized how much of his life has been sitting on pause while the future kept fast forwarding. And that hits different in your 40s. The way he talked about people running up trying to rap for him, that made him sound more tired than annoyed. Like he didn't even have the energy to be who they expected him to be anymore. That's the part people don't tell you about being famous. They love your gift, but they don't always see the person behind it. And prison don't care who you are. Prison don't care if you had a hit record or a hit movie. Prison makes you start over. Prison makes you face the version of yourself you kept avoiding. And when Max said he watched men go crazy inside, you believe him. This wasn't for show. This was a man telling you what the system can really do to your mind. But even in all that darkness, there was still a light. Because Max talked about music like it was air. Like it was the only thing keeping him from losing himself completely. Like it was the lifeline God put in his hands and said, hold on to this until you reach the other side. He said the more he committed to his craft, the more life opened up for him. And if you've ever created anything in your life, you know exactly what that means. Art can save you in places where people can't. Art can reach you in rooms nobody else can get in. And that's why this interview felt like a full circle moment. A man who once made waves outside was telling us how he made waves inside just to survive. And Camron got quiet multiple times, which told me everything I needed to know. Because real friends don't have to talk to understand your pain. And when Max talked about finding out he might come home early, you could hear the discipline that comes from hurt. That's a prison lesson. You don't celebrate until reality hits you in the face. He said he had mixed feelings. Like one side of him wanted to stay grounded and the other side wanted to scream and tell the world, I'm coming home. That's a man fighting hope and humility. And you know what hit me the most? He didn't come home trying to be bigger than life. He came home calm. He came home present. He came home speaking like a man who finally understands how precious time really is. And that's a lesson most people never learn until it's too late. But we also got to tell the truth. There are still people who have trouble embracing his return. People who look at what happened back in the day and say he shouldn't be celebrated. And they have every right to feel that way because some wounds would never heal. But celebrating Max B's interview is not celebrating the crime. It's celebrating the man who paid the price, grew through the process, and walked out different. It's celebrating a human being who survived a sentence that could have swallowed him. It's celebrating a brother who looked into the darkest part of his life and found his way back to the light. And that's what makes this interview powerful. Not the stories, not the jokes, not the history. What makes it powerful is seeing a man who shouldn't be here still here. What makes it powerful is seeing a spirit that should have been broken, but it's still standing. Max B showed us what time can do if a man fights to keep his soul intact. And Camron and Mase gave him a safe space to show that to the world. And I hope people watch that interview and understand one thing. Falling down don't make you a monster, and getting back up don't make you a god. It just makes you human. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to be. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.